You have a new project, and your team has created a good activity list through brainstorming sessions that you've led. Now, you need to estimate the duration of those activities to determine if you can meet the deadline established with the project customer. What do? While you want to be aggressive with the schedule, you know that it'll not make the customer happy if you miss the final delivery date. At the same time, if you're too conservative, you don't want to tell the customer that you can't meet the deadline at all and lose the project. In an effort to create realistic durations, you start by looking at prior experience on similar projects. You can use the actual completion durations for the same activities that your team or other teams performed on similar completed projects. When prior experience isn't available, you gather the appropriate team members and brainstorm an estimated activity duration based on their expert judgment. In some cases, industry-provided estimating tools may be available. Once you've determined an estimated duration for each activity, you'll need to create a network diagram to display the relationship between the activities and calculate an overall duration for your project. In general, there are two approaches to creating network diagrams: activity on arrow, AOA, and activity on node, AON. The activity on arrow, AOA network diagrams are useful in getting a display of the relationship between activities, but are limited in use for analyzing the overall project duration. The activity on arrow approach places the activity and its duration on the line connecting related activities in the project. The relationships displayed in the network diagram show each activity connected to the activity or activities that precede or succeeded. When you get all the relationships displayed correctly with the estimated durations, you can calculate the overall duration of the project based on following each path through the project. The longest duration path through the network diagram represents the critical path. The activity on node, AON network diagrams, sometimes called activity in the box, are similar in development to the activity on arrow diagrams, except the activity and its associated duration is displayed on the node rather than the arrow. Nodes are the points where arrows intersect. Because you're placing the activity and the associated duration at the node, typically in a box, you have space in the box to include additional information. As you analyze each path moving forward through the AON diagram, you can add information in each box that indicates the earliest an activity can start and the earliest it will finish. Again, the longest path through the network diagram will be the critical path. With the AON diagram and the results of the critical path, you can analyze each path through the project working backward from the critical path finish. When working backward through the project activity, you can indicate the latest an activity can finish in the node, and then determine the latest date each activity can start. When you know the late start dates for each activity, you can better determine the actual status of your project. Thus, the overall schedule isn't impacted until an activity misses the late start date. To create a meaningful project schedule, the estimated duration of each activity must be realistic. Realistic duration estimates can be determined by using the actual completion durations on similar previously completed projects, expert judgment of your team members, and, in some cases, industry-developed estimates. Once realistic estimates are developed, you can display those activities with their associated durations in a network diagram. There are two types of network diagrams: activity on arrow, AOA, and activity on node, AON. The AOA network diagram displays the activity and its duration on the line of the arrow. The lines are connected to show the activity or activities preceding or succeeding the activity. By analyzing each path through the diagram, the project critical path and overall duration can be determined. The AON network diagram is more robust for managing your project as it provides for additional schedule analysis because the activity and its duration are placed in a box at the node of each arrow. By analyzing the activities moving forward through the diagram, you determine the earliest start and finish date for each activity. When you find the critical path, you can use the finish date of the critical path to work backward through the schedule to calculate the latest start and finish date for each activity. Knowing both allows you to better determine the effect on the overall project should an activity miss its last start date.